Welcome to Idea Cochise with Cochise Rome. Weighing in on the weight classes, episode 2. This is Strike Force. Fedor-Dan versus Dan Henderson. Wait, what? That doesn't sound right. Well, let me check the internet. No, this is actually happening. Shit. I did not want to see this fight. And actually, many people are unaware that this is going on. I did not know this fight was taking place this soon. I thought this fight was, happening in August, or maybe the co-main event to one of the Grand Prix fights that's going to take place in September. But no, it's actually getting its own card. So let's get into it. Jay-Z Cavalcante versus Bobby Green. American top team prospect Cavalcante has made his fame in Japan in organizations like K1 Heroes and Dream. From 2008 to May of 2009, he was on the show for the leg injury. During that time, it seems like his opponents have studied the footage that was given to them because they've been able to nullify a lot of his striking. It's not that Cavalcante is a lesser fighter than what he once was, but it's very obvious that he's predictable. Bobby Green, on the other hand, is the king of the cage fighter, so he's moving up in competition. However, he's been defeating the bulk of his competition in spectacular fashion. He has 15 wins, and 13 of those wins are finishes. I don't care what organization you work for or what weight class you are in. 15 wins is great, but 13 finishes is awesome. I think this fight's going to be the upset of the night. I feel that Bobby Green is going to defeat Jay-Z. Jay-Z Cavalcante has been a little hit and miss ever since his second fight with Shinya Aoki. In Dream 2, he fought Aoki, and Aoki displayed this amazing striking, nullifying ability, which he has not displayed since Dream 2. And it seems as though Aoki laid out the blueprints for all of the other future fights Jay-Z had, from Tetsuya Kawajiri to Josh Thompson. And yes, I feel that Jay-Z beat Josh Thompson. However, in my mind, it should not have been called into question. Josh Thompson was a little too close in that fight. I thought Jay-Z was just going to dominate him and finish him in the second round and end up going to decision. And, when it goes into decision's hands, you never know what you're going to get. Later on, Jay-Z got a no contest with Justin Wilcox, which was another weird decision in my opinion, with because Strike Force has a lot of fights outside of Las Vegas and all these other different athletic commissions. So it ended up being a no contest instead of a warning. I really do feel that Bobby Green is going to take this fight, maybe by knockout. He's a king of the cage fighter, so this is going to be his first time on the big stage with Zuffa. But he's walking in with a ton of confidence, and Jay-Z is just not. So I'm taking Bobby Green. Paul Daley versus Tyron Woodley. Semtex Paul Daley, best known for his knockout of Martin Kampmann and sucker punching of Josh Koscheck in UFC 113, was released by the UFC right after that incident. He then went 4-1 post-UFC with 3 impressive finishes, and the one loss being to the Strike Force welterweight champion Nick Diaz. The 4 opponents he did defeat were not lesser fighters per se, but they were fighters that were unable to implement their game plans against Semtex. This is not the case with Tyron Woodley. While not having as an impressive resume compared to Daley, Tyron possesses the sheer strength and ground skills that are poison to a one-dimensional striker that Paul is. I have to remix Erykah Badu for 2011 if you're going to place a bet on this fight. You better call Tyron. Robbie Lawler versus Tim Kennedy. Okay, Robbie Lawler has not really looked the same since he defeated Morello Ninja Hua back in, that was the Elite XC days, so 2007. And he also defeated Frank Trigg right around that time. knocked him out in like 1 or 2 minutes of the first round. But that was in 2007. And for those who don't know, 2007 was really the year of the upset. This is when Sokoju beat Arona and then Little Nogueira, or strike that, vice versa. This is when Nick Diaz beat Takanori Gomi, and this is when Mirko Krokop got his head kicked in. This, 2007 was a very, very strange year for mixed martial arts. I believe that's also when Matt Serra defeated GSP. That could be late 2006. I gotta double check it. Either way, I don't see him defeating Tim Kennedy. Tim Kennedy, I did not see his last fight, but I did see his fight with Jacare Azusa, and I think the crowd was very behind Tim Kennedy, but it was very clear that Jacare won that fight. But he displayed a lot of good skills in the stand-up game. At least enough to pick apart Robbie Lawler to get the unanimous decision win, or maybe some sort of late round TKO. Let's talk about the fights I'm not going to do a big review on. Scott Smith versus Tarek Stefandini. I believe that's how you say his last name. Both of these fighters have been losing a lot. They both have losing records in their past 4 to 5 fights. So either way, I'm not really caring. And then there is also the co-main event of the evening, the women's fight between Maurice Conan and Marissa Tate. The thing is that I enjoy women's MMA, but I just don't follow it that much because really there's not that many fights going on in the States. Most of women's MMA takes place in Japan. So, are they all in the same weight class? I'm not too sure. Very entertaining fights. Hopefully I will put something about them in my part B of this episode 2 of weighing in the weight classes. Fedor Emelianenko versus Dan Henderson. There is so much commentary on these two fighters, I will try not to repeat the rhetoric. But those new to MMA need to know a couple of things. Fedor is considered one of the greatest fighters of all time. Now, I don't care what organization you work for or your supposed level of competition. You don't compete on an international level and not get beat for 9.5 years without being one of the greatest. I don't care if this is competitive checkers. If someone won competitive checkers for 9.5 years straight, that constitutes the title of greatness. Dan Henderson, while not having an impressive record in terms of win-loss ratio, is a force to be reckoned with at any weight class he fights at. No other fighter has a who's who of opponents like Hendo does. It could be a judoka from Japan like Kazuhiro Masaki, a BJJ specialist like Jake Shields, or Minotauro Nogueira. It could be a wrestling boxing hybrid like Rampage Jackson. Dan Henderson does it all. Now, this fight that's going to take place in Strikeforce on July 30th was actually alluded to over 4 years ago in the clip I'm about to show you.
I was thinking even before this fight that I was going to let my body heal up a little bit, but the closer it got to the fight, I think the excitement got to me and my body's feeling good, so I'm ready to go whenever Pride wants to put me in. I don't know, maybe I'll go for a third belt, and I can't make lightweight, so you never know, I might end up at heavyweight.
Okay, first off, this fight does not deserve to be in today's mixed martial art world. This fight should take place in Japan 6 years ago. Not today, not even in the organization of Dream. I don't understand the marketability for this fight, and when I found out that the fight was coming up much sooner than I thought, I realized that the company Zuffa can't really sell this fight that well either. I've heard a lot of bullshit on the internet about how Dan Henderson's a much more complete fighter. He hasn't displayed it, especially in his recent fights. He's actually become a one-dimensional fighter. He's really reliant on that one heavy right hand. This was seen in his fight with Jake Shields. Yes, he's also seen his fight with Mike Bigsby, which he did land the big TKO, and it was oh so great at UFC 100. I really felt that Fedor was beating Dan Henderson until that one landed punch. Clinching with Fedor is not going to do anything but land you in a submission. Fedor is the faster of the two fighters, And for those who are in doubt, like, oh, you know, Fedor, he did lose his last 2 fights, you need to remember that he lost his last 2 fights trying to finish his last 2 fights. When he thought he knocked down Force Fedor-Dan, he tried to go and attack him, got caught in the armbar triangle. Then when he was getting dominated in the second round with Bigfoot Silva, the last 15 seconds or so, he was trying to still finish a fight with a leg lock. I mean, that really takes a true heart of a champion to be dominant in such a way, but still have the heart and the discipline to succeed in that drive that Fedor has. And I think that he still has that. Whether or not he still has the abilities, that's into question. But I actually predict that this fight will end in a second round submission for Fedor Emelianenko. All right, guys. Catch me about 4 or 5 days after the Strikeforce event, so after everything settles down, and hopefully I can review some of those other fights I did not preview, and I catch you guys on part 2 of Cochise Rome's Idea Cochise weighing in on the weight classes. Take care.